Pleased to introduce next to me, going clockwise, Harriet Marsden is a journalist in London. Richa Sandwell is with Quick Hits News. She joins us from Mumbai, India. Ami Kaufman is a terrific world-class journalist who reports from Tel Aviv, is where he joins us now. And the big reaction that I'm looking for from everybody, Donald Trump has COVID-19. He has tested positive along with Melania, the First Lady. Vice President Pence does not, but it has caused a lot of uncertainty around the globe. Harriet Marsden, let's start with you. What's been the reaction in London?
Well, of course, David, the comparisons with our own Prime Minister Boris Johnson are inevitable. There is a lot of schadenfreude because, like Boris Johnson, Donald Trump bragged a lot about the virus not being serious in the same way that Boris Johnson bragged about coronavirus patients and shaking hands with them. We've had Donald Trump at mass rallies where there have been cases of spreading. So, but unlike what happened in the UK, where Boris Johnson saw a surge in his popularity, especially after lockdown, but also with regards to his diagnosis, we do not expect to see the same for Trump. No, not at all. If anything, we're surprised that it took so long. There's a lot of humor going around about whether or not he should try injecting bleach. The fact that Biden has come back with a negative test, and Pence as well, showing us that, in fact, masks and hand washing do work, as we thought they did.
Well, and Ami Kaufman, President Trump certainly has a lot of support where you are in Israel. What's been the reaction in Israel and in Tel Aviv?
You know, it's interesting you brought that up. It's not just a lot of support. I think it might be, he might be liked in Israel more than he's liked back home in the United States. So it's very interesting to, take a look at how Israel is reacting to this, especially the Prime Minister himself, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's probably the first Prime Minister to, really gamble and put his bet on the Republican Party and on Donald Trump. So he's a very, very close ally. And I think he was one of the first leaders to come out and wish our friends a full and speedy recovery. There were some other leading politicians who tweeted as well, like the transportation minister, Miri Regev. She said to President Trump and his wife, Melania, good health and quick recovery. The people of Israel pray in the Holy Land for your recovery. I want to read one more tweet that was really interesting, because this is from the senior diplomatic correspondent of the paper that's owned by a mega donor in the States, Sheldon Adelson. It's called Israel Hayom. It's the most widely circulated newspaper in Israel, and it's very supportive of the Prime Minister. And Ariel Kahana, the senior diplomatic correspondent there, he kind of had this like real blessing for Donald Trump. He said, he who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he will bless and quickly heal Donald, son of Fred, and his wife Melania, who contracted the coronavirus, for all the good deeds he did for Jews and their state, who brought peace upon Israel and gave sovereignty to the Jewish people in Judea and Samaria. Judea and Samaria, of course, is the term that right-wingers use for the occupied territories, the West Bank, and recognized the Golan Heights and moved the embassy to Jerusalem. This is a really classic, example, David, about how right-wingers in Israel and the majority of the country really feel that Donald Trump has been good for this country. They don't really take a look at what he's done back home in the States, but when it comes to foreign policy, what he does here in Israel, they're worried about him and worried about his health.
Well, and speaking of health, I'm going to bring you back, in just a moment to there's another COVID-19 test positive in Israel that's shaking a lot of people there. But first, I'm going to get reaction from Richa Sandwell. Richa, what's been the reaction to Donald Trump testing positive? What's the reaction in India?
David, so, of course, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, have sort of a romance, going on for a very long time. So, Prime Minister Modi, of course, was one of the first world leaders to tweet out, wishing Melania and President Trump speedy recovery and good health. Apart from that, I think India and US ties have definitely improved ever since Trump came into power. So I think India does hold a very important place in Trump's political landscape. But also just not just talking about India, but just getting reactions from Asia in general. I think there was this, state-owned Global Times newspaper in China, just to get a little reaction from there as well. One of their editors sort of tweeted and said that this is the price that Trump has to pay for underplaying the virus. There was also a professor in Japan who teaches at Keio University who said that populist leaders like British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro got infected because they tended not to take the coronavirus seriously. The other two leaders seriously tackled the virus after they were infected. Will the United States also follow their example? So I think there is a mixed reaction as far as this news is concerned. Sympathy, mockery, as well as criticism for President Trump.
Given, Richa, the high incidence of COVID-19, the high numbers in India, has there been any sympathy for him because of how quickly it has spread all over the world, and certainly the experience that people in India have had?
I think it's been a mixed reaction, David. There is a bit of a sympathy, obviously, because all of Modi supporters support Trump, but those who don't have sort of, like Harriet said earlier as well about the disinfectant. A lot of people tweeted out about, I hope that he uses that treatment that he sort of talked about earlier this year when the pandemic broke out. So it's been very mixed here, David.
Now, I want to get it back, and by the way, to everybody who's joining us over Haps TV, Quick Hits News TV, our YouTube page, Twitter, Periscope, all the rest. This is a special live broadcast of Quick Hits News. We've got reaction from around the world to the news that Donald Trump has COVID-19. We're talking to Richa Sanwal, who's in Mumbai, India. Harriet Marsden is reporting from London, and Ami Kaufman reporting from Tel Aviv, and I'm in Lebanon, Connecticut. Which one of these does not go with the other? Anyway, but a lot of news today, a lot of reaction, and I want to invite everybody who's commenting now already over Twitter and over the comment section. We've got a hello to all of you from Teresa Krug in Heber Springs, Arkansas. Hello from Mark in Los Angeles. Hello from Brett, who is also in Los Angeles. Peter is in Seattle. Ami Kaufman, I want to get to the other big news about COVID-19 that came out of Israel today, involving another sort of esteemed figure. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so a very important rabbi got infected, but just a little context before that, David. Israel is in the midst of its very severe second wave of coronavirus, and we're now in our second full lockdown. We're breaking records when it comes to active cases per million people. We're probably now number one in the world. Just yesterday, we had 9,000 new cases, 9,000 in a country of just about 9 million people. Harriet might be able to tell me, how many. I think they have like 3,000 or 4,000 now in England, in a country of, 60 or 70 million people in England. So we're going through a very, very strong second wave. And one of the reasons for that, David, is that the ultra-Orthodox community is where most of the infection rate is. The ultra-Orthodox community is about 10% of the population, but it is now making up around 40% of people diagnosed with coronavirus each day. And one of those people last night, when we all heard about Trump, was Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, a leading Orthodox rabbi, probably some would say the most important rabbi comparison with Trump, because both of them, in a way, helped spread the virus. First of all, Trump by, of course, spreading fake news. But here at the beginning, Chaim Kanievsky, this rabbi, when in March, when the first wave was happening in Israel, ordered the yeshivas, these schools where the young men here in Israel, the religious men, learned the Torah. He ordered them to stay open, and that's when infection rates kept on going up. There's also a very interesting video that's circulating now that's making a lot of waves, where in April, just before the last elections that we had, the rabbi was asked that if people put the ballot for his party, which is called the United Torah Judaism, will that mean that they will be safe from getting the coronavirus? The rabbi said, yes, if you vote for me, you won't get coronavirus. And now he has coronavirus, David, and people are writing on Twitter, looks like the rabbi didn't vote for his own party.
Well, it gets right to some of the criticism that Donald Trump has gotten. I mean, so many political leaders in the United States have been wishing Donald Trump well, hoping for a speedy recovery. But also, you have the Speaker of the U.S. House, Nancy Pelosi, saying that he essentially had a brazen invitation for himself to get it because of his cavalier attitude, not wearing masks, not having his family wear masks, interacting with people who may have been exposed, like his aide Hope Hicks. So there's some sympathy, but also a lot of mocking of President Trump, at least here in the United States. But Ami, to your point about the numbers and how 9,000 cases compares to what to a country of 60 or 70 million, Harriet, what are the latest numbers in terms of daily infections in the UK?
So we're up to about 8,000 new cases. We've recently broken the 40,000 overall cases. We've got about a fifth of the country local lockdown. We've got no household mixing at all allowed in Scotland now. There's been a mayor of East London, a prominent mayor, who has suggested that in London we should also stop mixing as well. We have a really serious surge in the reproduction rate. That's up between 1.3 and 1.6. And we also had our own coronavirus big news yesterday with an SMP, an MP from Scotland, Margaret Ferrier, was found or admitted that she had travelled down from Glasgow to London with coronavirus symptoms, and then once testing positive, travelled back all the way from London to Glasgow. That's all the way across the United Kingdom, knowing that she had coronavirus symptoms. So that has massive implications for Westminster. That has huge implications for people whose lives that she could have endangered. And First Minister Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland has called it the worst breach imaginable. So it's looking increasingly likely that the UK is going to see even more stringent lockdown scenario in the coming weeks.
Harriet, a lot of people here in the United States are reminding one another of what President Trump said at his debate with former Vice President Joe Biden, where the president made some fun of the size of the mask that Joe Biden was wearing. And a lot of people saying, well, their President Trump therefore somehow deserves this. That he shouldn't have been mocking other people because maybe if he had been taking more precautions himself. How many of these sort of details from the debate or some of the wild claims that President Trump said at the debate the other night about COVID-19 have penetrated where you are in the UK?
Well, here in the UK, we are accustomed to mistrusting pretty much anything Donald Trump says. We don't really bother fact-checking as much anymore. We just have headlines like Donald Trump spouted an incessant stream of mistruths in the debate. We've also been scrambling today to try and familiarize ourselves with the American Constitution, trying to figure out what would happen if Donald Trump has incapacitated with coronavirus. Then what if Mike Pence is also incapacitated? So we're looking at a possible President Pelosi scenario. So
yeah, good luck with that. Even some Americans are confused by what our Constitution says about the line of succession. But anyway, keep going.
Well, as you know, the British have a very strong fair play. We really have to say on our side of the pond, as we've been watching with horror and incredulity, and not only the news of the staggering number of cases in the US, but also the news that Donald Trump knew the severity of the virus and then chose to downplay it. Our sense of fair play and karma has sort of told us that not only was Donald Trump's coronavirus diagnosis somewhat inevitable, but also somewhat justified.
Richa Sandwell, I'm going to ask you, because there are fears within the United States national security establishment about when you have a president of the United States who may be incapacitated, that this is an opportunity for